Hello, I'm Pete Nenny, a representative from the Daily Herald editorial board. Today is September 17th, and we're pleased to begin a joint interview with candidates for Lake County Circuit Court Clerk in the November 2020 election. We welcome candidates incumbent Erin Cartwright Weinstein and her Republican opponent, Gloria Schmidt Rodriguez. Ms. Weinstein will begin our questioning with you. What differentiates you from your opponent? Why should people vote for you?
So I think the first thing is, and thank you for doing this interview, I think it's great. But I think the first thing is experience. I've been a Lake County resident for over 20 years. I have worked in the Lake County State's Attorney's Office. I practice laws almost exclusively in Lake County in civil and in criminal prior to taking this job. So when I came in, I really had a good idea of what was really needed in the office, and that I had a relationship with the judges, so it was very easy to be able to begin making those changes. And I have just kept moving since I came in. I mean, and we're updating technology, we're fixing the paper records. I mean, there's so many things that we have been doing. We really haven't stopped making changes and betterment for the office and creating more access to justice.
Ms. Rodriguez, the same question.
Sure. Just for the viewers to know, my name is Gloria Rodriguez, and I'm very excited to be here. I'm very excited that I'm on the ballot for this year. So in everything that my opponent just said, I couldn't be any more of a complete opposite. I'm not from Lake County originally. I'm from Miami, Florida. I haven't spent my entire career as an attorney practicing solely in Lake County. So we're two sides of the coin entirely. I can tell you that my differences actually, I think, make me better suited for the job. Number one, if all you know is Lake County and all you know is the same old, then that's all you're going to keep doing. I practice all throughout the state of Illinois. I have some very high profile cases that have taken me to Virginia, New York, Florida, Washington State, Arizona. So I can see, and I have firsthand experience knowing what other counties do. We don't even need to go that far. If you look over at DuPage County, Chris Ketcherubis, he's doing a phenomenal job. And he was one of the only counties that got an exception when the e-filing mandate was handed down the last couple years. So there's things that we can do that's better, that I think having someone who is not in the system is going to be able to address better.
Ms. Rodriguez, what's the greatest need facing the office, and what specific project or plan will you advocate to address that issue?
I think it changes, but in the last, decade, what I've seen is that we expect people to come into the courthouse with some kind of equal footing, and that's just not the case. When we say access to justice, what does that really mean? And to me, it means that people need to be treated and have the same means of accessing the courthouse. So the two biggest population groups that I see that don't get treated the same, number one, are people without lawyers. They've been turned away. I've seen it in action, where the clerk's office will say, we can't give legal advice. So that's your problem. Well, some things are legal advice and some things aren't. And there's a way to handle that kind of problem that I think can be done with a little more compassion. So people without attorneys, I think, need especially more help in understanding these procedures. And I see a lot of them come to my office. My office is right across the street from the courthouse. They come in with just procedural problems that have messed up their case. The second group, and this is really, really, I haven't seen this addressed in any other county, but it's people that have mental health disabilities. We don't expect someone who's paralyzed to come into court in a wheelchair and force them to stand up. Yet we expect people that have anxiety disorders, or maybe they have a low cognitive functioning, to be able to understand the same pressure and the same information, just like a regular person would be expected to. And so I think we as the clerk's office and as professionals need to really advocate that just because someone looks outwardly like they understand or they don't have any issues, you got to dig deeper. And I've seen judges, even on the bench now, not giving those affordabilities, those distinct individuals. And I want to be an advocate for them.
As the Lake County clerk of the circuit court, how would you address that? What's your plan for addressing that?
Well, you know, what I've seen in other counties where they've done that, they've actually been able to notate the file to say, look, there's been a finding where this person needs an accommodation. It's just like we would have IEPs in the public school sector. You advise the people that are working on the file, hey, this person is going to need this level of accommodation. And that way it's known throughout the process. And I'm sure anyone who's had this job can tell you there's a lot of coordination with other agencies. And so Judge Winters, the chief judge, I know her very well. I actually rent from her husband. They've made me feel at home in Lake County. They need to know, hey, that we need to open up a special class of people so that they have these accommodations so that they can better participate in the process.
Ms. Weinstein, same question. What do you see as the greatest need facing your office and specific project or plan to advocate to address that issue? And you can respond to Ms. Rodriguez's idea.
Thank you. Well, I'd love to start with Ms. Rodriguez's idea. I am actually very, very proud of Lake County and everything that we've done so far to accommodate those with disabilities. We have a very compassionate staff. We have set up terminals in the middle of our office. We have set up terminals on the first floor of our office where our staff has been trained specifically to help people, whether they have a disability or whether they just are needing assistance and trying to figure out how to use the e-filing system or the court system. We actually, as circuit court clerks, we cannot give legal advice, and actually we could be charged with unauthorized practice of law for giving legal advice. This is an extremely fine line, and we have to be very careful, and especially me, I practiced for almost 17 years before I started this job, and I had to be very, very careful about what I said to people and what I could actually do, because I obviously wanted to do everything I could to help them. And we did coordinate actually with the courts. We coordinate with them constantly. We have set up we call it an SRL call. It's the self-represented litigant call for family law specifically, because we found that that was an area that needed significant need. We were involved with the courts who obtained a grant to do this call, and it has been quite successful. It has really given the self-represented litigants assistance that they've needed. And the courts also, they run the law library, and we coordinate with the law library. So there's certain things that we can help with, certain things we can't help with. And the things that we can't help with, we don't brush them off, but we send them up to the law library where they can receive copies of the paperwork they need, how they, assistance filling that paperwork out, and then they can bring it back to us, and we can assist them in setting it up in the court file. We also have, which this works on along with the judiciary, is our mental health courts, our veteran court, our disability courts, and drug courts, and we work we work hand in hand with the judges on that. And so our clerks are trained specifically to be in those courtrooms and how to help those people. So I am very proud of Lake County. I did actually practice in McHenry, DuPage, Will, a little bit in Cook before when I was practicing. It wasn't nearly, it was probably, maybe 10-15% of my practice, but I did go there and I did learn how to use DuPage's system and McHenry's system. And so I have been very involved in how they do things. And I also work actually very closely with Chris Kacherubis. He's one of my favorites. He's a lot of fun to work with. And he shares what they're doing. They are very innovative in that office, and we work with them all the time. And they, you know, when they received that e-filing exemption, they did receive it, but that's because they had an e-filing system in place. Lake County had also received that e-filing exemption. However, when I came into office, one of my big issues when I ran in 2016 was that an e-filing system was being built, but it was not actually working. And so there would have been about $5.3 million spent on an e-filing system that was, the deliverables were never provided. We cut ties with that e-filing system and we jumped on with the state-sponsored system. And that system we had up and running right away. And has been working very, very well for us. It's taken some adjustment, but it has been working well.
So,
As far as what I see coming in the future, we have a lot of projects going on. And, you know, when I came in, the first thing that was very distressing to me was that none of the documents were backed up in that office. Everything was a paper file. And that's a high risk issue and it's a very inconvenient issue. And so in speaking to access to justice, that is a huge access to justice issue because people have to drive to Waukegan to get what they need. So we have been working with a company, we just contracted with a company named Excella, and we are in the process of backing up all of those documents. And we have also contracted with a company called Journal Technologies, and that company is for our new case management system, and that's going to be a web-based, web browser-based system. So all of those documents are going to link up to that system and be accessible to the parties along with our Supreme Court rule restrictions. So we do have, I guess it's fortunate and unfortunate. We have restrictions that we have to follow with the Supreme Court rules, and with those rules, there is some limitations to what we can do, but what we can do, we are putting into play.
Ms. Weinstein, what other ideas do you have to improve the office operation and how would you fund them?
So with the office, I think our current projects that are ongoing are going to have significant improvements. I mean, the docket digitization project, the case management system, I mean, those are the two biggest and largest projects that really, really needed to happen to make any efficiencies or improvements in that office. As far as strong improvements, I think we still need to work on our e-citation program with the Sheriff's Department. I'd like to see that get up and going. I think that that's going to be much easier for people. We also have updated, I actually am the first clerk in Lake County to put up an online payment system for traffic tickets, but I'd like to get that expanded so that people can do e-guilties. That is an inconvenience for people, and we do receive a lot of you know, questions about when that's going to be available to people because most counties can do it, and that is also in the works but not up yet. So I think those are probably the two biggest things. We definitely have learned a lot from COVID as well. So I think when we came into COVID, without the case management system, we really found that it was a struggle to be able to, you know, keep the public socially, you know, keep the public remote, us remote. So that is definitely something that we have now learned, that we have to be more prepared and ready when something like that happens. So I think we got through it well considering our situation, but I would have loved to have seen a better plan in place for that in the future. So that is something that we are working on with the judiciary.
Ms. Rodriguez, same question. What other ideas do you have to improve the office operation? How would you fund them?
Okay, so the very first thing I would do, and again, this is all from personal experience, practicing here and interacting with all the people. I don't do just one kind of law. I do criminal, I do family, I do probate, I do small claims. I'm in the building at various different places on any given day. So through my personal experience, I've seen that we have a lot of uninspired clerks working inside the courtrooms. For whatever reason, they have a bad attitude. They don't want to bother with some of the formalities that need to be there. I've gotten into a few discussions with some of the judges about basically an uninspired workforce. So I would want to start at that granular level to really weed out the people that just don't have a passion for public service. So I would start with that, and I think that would actually not cost us anything, and in fact increase the resources and how far our dollars go when we have good people that actually want to be there, who adopt an attitude that I am here for you, residents, instead of the other way around, or instead of just this being a job. So that's number one. The second thing I would want to do is just make it easier for everyone to be able to live in this new world that we have, that is, it's the stay at home and needing things from basically our wherever we are, being able to be mobile. So some specifics that I think are just bananas right now is when you do an order of protection online, you have to e-file it, the petition, then you have to go to the courtroom, you have to physically sign it in front of one of the clerks, then you have to bring it back to wherever you want to e-file it, either the law library if you're a pro se, or your house, or if you're an attorney, you bring it back to your office. Then you have to upload it and then resend it. I just don't understand why we need to waste so much time just trying to get a filing in. So there's little things here and there in the different areas of the law where we don't need to spend any money to do them. We just need to get our act together and figure out what is it that needs to be completed. If the order needs to be signed by the judge electronically, then let's do that. There's too much red tape there. And then lastly, when you look at how the court call is structured, and let me just preface by saying in this area, I really look forward to working with Judge Winter on this, Chief Judge Winter. You really need to streamline how the calls are made. If you look at Fairfax County in Virginia, they have a non-contested call, a status call, and a contested call. And that's all coordinated by the circuit clerk out there. And so what's happening right now, you have judges that have 40 to 50 participants on their morning call. They're logging in 10 to 12 hours. I was at the family law meeting on Wednesday of this week, and we heard Judge Schmidt just shaking his head, saying, you know, I'm trying the best I can. I'm here working 10 to 12 hours a day, and people are still getting frustrated that their cases aren't being heard. I think we need to structure this in a way that makes sense, not just for the litigants, but also for the staff and for the judges. So those are the three improvements that I would straight away attack once I'm in office.
So would you have the power to streamline that court call? How it's handled?
Well, there's certain litigation, there's certain statutes and regulations that we have to follow. But again, looking at DuPage County, even looking at Cook County, we don't have that extra step. So I would absolutely streamline that, because I know that we can do it in Illinois. The example I gave about Fairfax County, they have the same deal in Denver County in Colorado. And that was just a coordination and a strong effort and making it a priority between the clerk's office and the chief judge's office. And what that has done is basically, if you have an uncontested matter or a status, or you just need a date, you don't come to court at all. Right now, unfortunately, that's not the case right now, and that's across the board. That's in civil cases, that's in criminal cases, that's in family law cases. So it's uniform. And again, I know that because I'm in these courtrooms every single day, Monday through Friday.
Ms. Weinstein, is what Ms. Rodriguez proposing doable?
No.
Why not?
No, it's not. So there's a few things with regarding that. So first of all, our job is to be the record keeper. Our job is, you know, very specific to assisting the judge in keeping the proper record. And we have to stay very, very focused on that. And we can certainly discuss with the judge if we have suggestions or we have ideas, but quite frankly, each judge has their own way of doing things, and they make their decisions about how those court calls are going to run. Now, they do have committees, they do, and the chief judges meet regularly, but you know, they each personally like you know, to handle their court calls the way they like to handle them. And we have worked recently even on the Zoom, you know, calls and trying to coordinate to have each courtroom to be very similar. So if one of my clerks, you know, maybe they're out due to a COVID issue or something, and I had to switch out and put another clerk in there, I had actually asked if we could be a little bit more consistent, and the judges said, oh yeah, that's a great idea. But when it really came down to it, they want to run their courtrooms the way they want to run their courtrooms, and that's not up to us. We, you know, I have sat down, I practiced family law for almost 13 years, and I did sit down with Judge Winter when she was presiding over family, and I first started, and we, you know, discussed some issues that some of the family law committee bar members had about how the court calls are running. And, you know, they just made a decision at the end of the day that the way that they were running it was the way that they wanted to run it. And so it's our job to really make sure that our office is functioning for the courts. I mean, that is really our job. That is our focus. And you have to keep a good relationship with the judiciary. If you come in and really start fighting them, you can't get things done. And I have found that I'm one of the first clerks that's come in that's actually had a really good relationship with the judiciary. I can walk up to their chambers and say, hey, this is going on. What do you think? Or how can we fix it? Or what can we do? And they haven't had that with any of their prior circuit clerks. And so it's allowed for so many more avenues to open. It has allowed for us to be able to resource share, you know, to really do a lot of the case management system we're working on together. And they didn't have that relationship with prior clerks. So I'm really proud of that relationship I built with them. And we have to, you know, to some extent, you have to stay in your lane. You can't push them around. That's not how this job works.
Mr. Nenny, can I respond to that?
Yes, ma'am.
I think the characterization that Ms. Cartwright Weinstein about basically having rogue judges and pushing them around, that's an extreme, and that's not what I'm talking about. I think it's very ineffective and inefficient to allow all these judges to do whatever they want in their courtrooms. There needs to be some level of cohesion, not just for the clerks that work in the office, but also for the litigants, because oftentimes judges end up changing, they recuse, they're switched for whatever reason, and now you have a whole new procedure that the attorney and the litigant needs to follow. So I'm not saying push anybody around, but I'm saying that, you know, there needs to be leadership from the top, from the clerk's office and the chief judge's office, and the other top of the other agencies that get trickled in there, like the state's attorney's office and the sheriff's office. There needs to be cohesion amongst the top level people that can make these decisions, and then everyone else needs to fall in line. And the judges that don't do that maybe shouldn't be on the bench, because it's not their show. They're not there for themselves. They are there to administer justice. And justice sometimes is a little inconvenient on the judge, but they need to get with the program, and the top of these departments need to make a good plan that works for everyone.
Okay. Ms. Rodriguez, in your questionnaire, you say better work environment is needed in the circuit clerk's office. You make reference to what you say are arbitrary demotions, lack of incentives and rewards for personnel, some references to walking dogs, overall negative leadership. First of all, what are the criticism based on? And secondly, what changes would you make to improve the work environment in the office?
Sure. So let me start by saying this. I'm not an attorney who somehow got tired of running her own practice, who now decided to run for office. That is not the case with me. I feel like the job opening came to me. I'm here on a daily basis. I know these people now. I'm in this community. I live in Waukegan. I walk to work every day. And so what I've seen is my personal interactions with the clerks and some of the things that were very highbrow raising to me. In my relationship with these clerks, they've told me stories that some of the staff members were forced to walk Ms. Cartwright Weinstein's dogs. And they were very unhappy about that, and they were very afraid to speak up. And eventually more and more people started coming to me complaining about the lack of cohesion and the lack of pleasant workforce environment that existed there. So that for me to just do nothing doesn't sit with who I am as a person. And again, I'm not looking at this as like a life-changing job. I don't want to do that. I want to stay as an attorney and keep practicing in Waukegan and still continue doing the things that I've been doing. However, I want to come in for at least one term and make things better so that when I get out and come back to my beautiful practice that I love to death, that it's working better. And I know that I have a unique position to be able to do that. So in terms of that workforce, we really need to get to the bottom of why people are unhappy and really start cultivating a culture where we are happy. My paralegal, my staff have been with me since day one. I am the breadwinner of my family. My practice since I was 28 years old has provided food for the table, my 2 children, and a third that I have on the way. So this is very important to me. And I want to leave the Waukegan courthouse and the Lake County Circuit Clerk's office better than I found it. And again, I have a unique position and viewpoint and able to do that.
So what changes would you make to improve the work environment?
Well, specifically, I'd go through and meet every clerk that's on the staff. When I looked at the budget, which a staff member had sent over to me, it seemed like some people that should not have been demoted were demoted. People that had been there for a long-standing period of years, and I don't want to release names, but I have a detailed list of people who should not be in the position that they are. I also know some of the clerks that were there, that were doing a great job, that had given decades worth of lifetime service there, and that spoke Spanish, got so fed up with the environment that they left. And now one of them works in the public defender's office. So I would meet with every single staff member. I would let them know I am here, my door is open, and I would make a judgment call. And I would have a very specific valuation system for each person that's there. And the criteria would be, do you enjoy serving the public? That would be the crux.
Ms. Weinstein, please respond to the criticisms made by Ms. Rodriguez. Are any of them true? And explain your situation.
So first of all, when I came into office, we were working on a union contract, and I finalized a union contract that the staff had been fighting to have implemented for approximately 5 years. So when I was able to do that, there was actually an article that was written by the steward of our leadership, who said that I was great to work with. I was very supportive of the employees, and I was working as hard as I could to be able to get them what they needed. So I really make an effort every single day to make sure that the staff is happy. I say hello to them when I come in the morning. We meet if there are issues that they need to talk about. But as far as walking my dogs, I would never ask someone to walk my dogs. And we're union. So had I asked someone to walk my dogs, I absolutely would have received a phone call from the union rep. He has no problem calling me if he has questions or any issue going on. Most of our labor management meetings are canceled because the staff doesn't have anything that we need to even discuss. We have implied incentive programs. So every month, every time there's a compliment for one of the employees, we have a shout out board. With that shout out board, the management, all of us in management, we all contribute into the fund, and we purchase gift cards. So the people who win for that month in a raffle get a gift card. We do it for all the branch courts out in, the traffic courts, the juvenile courts. But I keep a really good steady relationship with people. I go out to the branch courts and I visit with them. I spend time with them. We also started out doing like a monthly, celebration, and we were trying to incorporate birthdays and any big events in people's lives in those monthly celebrations. the staff ended up telling me it was a little, wasn't as exciting when it was every month. So we switched it, and now it's quarterly. But I think, we really work with them to try and make sure that the places where they're working, they're happy. We have a list if people want to move into a different, division. And we use that list first to make transfers before we even hire new people in, so that people can try and work in the area that makes them the happiest. We have an incentive program that we started to help make the work staff more flexible, so they can go out and they can learn. We have a passport event, so they can go out and learn passports, or they can learn how to do juvenile court. And when they do those things, it allows them to have a 2% increase in their salary at the end of the fiscal year. So we're really trying to do things to motivate people, and make sure that they're happy. I mean, does everybody have a good day? And do we all have rough times in our lives? We do. But we really, really try and take all of those things into consideration, and, work with them and talk with them if something's going on. And, the overall feedback that I've received is that they're happy. I mean, if they have a complaint or some concern, they let me know. But quite frankly, the person she's talking about is in the public defender's office, and I are still friends. I was devastated to see her leave, but the circuit clerk's office, when you become a clerk, it's very hard to have movement, because out of the 138 positions that we actually have, 100 of them are clerks. And so you have it takes a very long time to move into a supervisory position. And so trying to keep people from feeling stuck, we're always supportive if they find employment somewhere else. And so I still enjoy seeing that employee. I like her very, very much. She did a wonderful job. I am hoping the best for her in her new position. She seems happy, and that makes me happy. But overall, I mean, I think we've really tried. We've opened up communication. We have a communication newsletter that we do monthly. And not only does it give me an opportunity to share with the staff what's going on in the office, what's going on in the county, but it also gives me an opportunity to, and to give them some time to feedback to everybody in the office. So advertise if they have a business on the side, or they can share news. So, and then we celebrate all of their, their anniversaries, their birthdays, whether it's an anniversary, family related anniversary with husband or something, or a work anniversary. But, we really, really make an effort to try and make them feel appreciated. And, to me, happy employees create that great environment. And we really try hard to do that. And one of the passions that I have is always trying to make sure that when the county board is setting their budget, that I really do my best to try and keep, the staff in a living wage position, that they don't lose healthcare benefits, that they don't, that they don't get hidden salaries, or, it's really important to me that they feel appreciated. And I think one of the ways that we do that as the county is to make sure that they feel that they can survive on what they make, because they don't make what they deserve. I wish they did, but they don't. And, so doing anything that we can to try and make things better for them, we really try and do.
Ms. Weinstein, in your questionnaire, you make several references to digitizing all records, including providing online access to electronic copies of court filing, implementing the new case management system. Office technology was an issue 4 years ago. Has it taken longer than expected to complete these improvements? Why or why not?
So it has not taken longer for me to complete the improvements, but we got it going. As far as the case management system goes, that system, we have so much data that it's taking over a year to transfer the data into the new system. So it's really in making sure that those projects don't end up like the project that I had to cancel when I came in for an e-filing system that was never rolled out for all that money. It was our main goal to make sure that every single piece of that contract had deliverables listed, that we knew that the county was accountable for what portions of that contract they were responsible for, and what portions that the new vendor was responsible for. And so when we went out on a request for proposals, and the original request for proposals that was drafted was pre-me. It was done in 2015, and it had been a bit of there was some discord between the judiciary and the county administration at that time. And so the county administration did not get on board with doing the new case management system. So when I came in, the chief judge and I at the time, Chief Judge Ortiz and I at the time, really worked hard and were able to push through and get the county to agree that a case management system was necessary. I mean, we're on COBOL. I mean, it's ridiculous. So we went to, when we got that done, then we had to redo the request for proposals because it was too old. And it did not incorporate in it what I think the judiciary and my vision were. So we went back, we fixed it, we put it out. Then we had to get all the vendors to respond. We had 7 vendors. We evaluated those 7 vendors. We picked the top 4, had presentations on the top 4. When we chose Journal Technologies, we wanted to make sure we were making the absolute right choice for this county. And so we flew out to Seattle to actually see the system functioning, because they're one of the only places where the system's actually physically functioning. So we went out, the judges, myself, and county's IT department. We all went out there, worked, talked with them. How did your procedure go? What happened? How does this work? And when we were done with that, then we had to move into the contract piece, which was what was really important to make sure that our deliverables, we never have an incident like that again. And so that was corrected, or that was completed. And then once that completes, then you have to kick off, and then you have to find out what that company wants and how they want it set up. And then we have to set it up for them that way. So yes, it's taken us it's going to be about a 3-year project in total, but considering the amount of data we have and the responsibility that we've taken on, I'm not concerned with the amount of time it's taken, because we want it done right. The docket digitization project, when I came into office, I had mentioned that $5.3 million had been spent on that e-filing system that wasn't working. Well, that was all pulled out of our special revenue fund. That special revenue fund went from having $5 million in it, which was what was used and burnt down, to $74,000. So I had to build that special revenue fund back up to get myself to a place where we could afford to do the docket digitization. So when you were asking me about budgeting, it's part of it is you figure out what you need, and then you figure out, how can it get paid for? Does the county have any resources available to assist, or is this going to be a project that the circuit clerk's office has to use a revenue fund for? And in this particular case, we really needed to use the revenue fund. And so I built that revenue fund back up. It's back up it's almost to $3 million now. And so now we've started the project, and we had to go through that same RFP process, do the whole thing, check out the vendors. We went to visit the vendors at their sites, see what their quality control was, and then you have to evaluate and do the contract. And so it is time consuming to do all of this, but in the end, it's worth it to do it right.
Ms. Rodriguez, can you respond? Do you believe that this has taken an inordinate amount of time, or do you agree these things take time? And do you have a better idea on how you would approach it?
It's difficult for me to answer that question when I'm not in the driver's seat of it. I don't know all the ins and outs.
Sure.
I have been following along as much as I can with the press, reporting on how long these processes take. You have to remember though, when you have contracts signed by the clerk's office and other vendors, you don't need the person at the top, whoever signed it, the actual human body who signed it, to remain on board to manage that. So one of the first things I would do is review these things and make sure that we've entered into solid agreements with these vendors. So that's the best place for a challenger to start. And then from there, see where can we cut out a lot of this middleman, time wasting, resource wasting steps. Again, with going just back to the example of the order protection filing, there's no reason why our courts can't do it the way Cook County does it. And Cook County is a lot bigger than ours. I read somewhere that Cook County's system was the largest in the country. They don't have these order protection filing hiccups. So there's no reason in my mind why we cannot streamline this process. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that, again, once you sign these contracts with these vendors, how it rolls out is pursuant to the contract terms themselves. So we won't need to have the same person at the top to be able to execute these plans. And I firmly believe that under my leadership, we're going to be able to execute it better, because we're going to have a much happier, much more pleasant workforce in there to make these things happen. And like, so I'm going to share just a post that was sent to me that was posted on Google. The Lake County Clerk's Office has 1.8 stars. And this comment is pretty typical of what I've heard. It says, Zachary South says, really bad people skills. Dealt with this staff a couple times, and every time it's rude, unhappy people I'm forced to deal with. Terminate this staff and hire people with standards and good work ethics. Seriously, that staff is one of the worst in the state. It's ranked lower than Cook County, lower than DuPage by far. It's and don't take my word for it, even though I'm there every day and I have clients there every day. But it's no hidden secret that the workforce is unhappy and uninspired.
Ms. Rodriguez, what would you do to improve transparency in the clerk's office on its website, and what's needed to better serve the taxpayers?
So there's so many things that the clerk's office has at their disposal that they can use that is free to do community outreach and to make sure that they're visible. So I've been following along. Their Twitter page is very much lacking. There's no substantive information posted on all these free social media accounts. More people nowadays get their news from Facebook and from Instagram than they do the actual mainstream media. And I follow all of the 19th Circuit Court, and I follow the Lake County's court. It's almost an afterthought. And things that are events are posted very, very closely to the actual event, so it doesn't give a lot of people time to actually make arrangements to be at those things. So what would that cost us, and the funding for that? Well, the platforms are free. You just need to assign someone the job and the task to do it. Somebody who's probably already in the press office, whoever's doing it now, just tell them, look, this needs to be updated daily, just like it does for any private corporation that takes full advantage of social media. So that's one way, that one simple way that can be done overnight. Just have those changes made. Let the public know, hey, we're going to be closed. On the same Google website, here, I'll post another one. This one's from Dan Collins. And he says, day after a holiday, and their message says they are closed because of the holiday. I can keep going. There's tons on there of people not answering phones, of people coming to court when there is no court, people not knowing how to get inside the building because they're doing renovations to the building, and so the doors at the front are locked. People were like, how do I get in here? The parking lot's closed. None of these things are posted out for the people to read before they come to court. They're already nervous when they get here. We're adding more things for them to be nervous about. Where to park, where alternate parking is. Those things should be on the website. Now, you mentioned, Mr. Nenny, the website itself. Nowhere in there is there a link for the information to be translated to Spanish. We have a huge population of Latinos y Latinas que están aquí that they don't have any access to the information here. And for them to find someone within the staff member to help them, it's like finding a needle in a haystack. They don't know where to go. They're lost. And again, they see me walking around with my briefcase, which you can see right there, my beat-up briefcase, and they ask me, ¿Eres una abogada? Which is, are you a lawyer? And I say, yes, and I'm there trafficking for people, at least when we had people inside the courthouse. So I think the website needs a overhaul, make it more friendlier for the average user, post things that are daily, have a Twitter feed that's up there and make a version of it that's translated into Spanish. I mean, again, these are things that I'm gonna do within the first 100 days that I'm in office.
Ms. Weinstein?
So as far, in response to Ms. Rodriguez, so our website actually does have some videos that we have translated into Spanish. So there's a passport video, there's a couple of other how-to videos on e-filing that were translated into Spanish. So we are trying to assist the Spanish community. We also do have quite a few people who speak Spanish. So if there is assistance needed, we always have someone who's bilingual in our office who's available to talk with the staff or with the public when they come in and they need assistance. So I certainly think that we have addressed that issue. And I do agree, our courthouse is a labyrinth at best. It's very difficult to navigate, and we have been working with the county on doing wayfinding for people so that, you know, everybody in that courthouse is helping people get where they need to go, whether it's to the recorder's office, to the treasurer's office, the clerk's office, my office, finding their way to the criminal courtrooms or the, you know, the main courthouse courtrooms. That is a constant issue that the county has. And when I first came into office, we had talked a lot about the wayfinding and how difficult it was for people. And at that time, the county wasn't on board with assisting us. So we started working with a company that was doing our dockets on the big screens in the front. And they were working with us on a wayfinding solution, but then there was a transition in the county board members, and as that transition happened, they wanted to engage in that wayfinding program. So that program is an ongoing program. They are working on the signage. They are, you know, we are going to start working on technology, but unfortunately with COVID and our significant impact to the county revenues, we are not going to be able to do the technology right now, but we will continue to work on that. As far as my staff being rude, I mean, I personally walk around that office and I keep an eye on what's going on. I have a really good chief deputy, and she also keeps an eye on what's going on. If there's someone who's got a concern or an issue and they're upset, I will personally come out and handle that issue so that they're not, you know, upset with my staff. And they are intimidated when they come into the courthouse, and they are anxious and they are upset. And I think one of our jobs as clerks is to make sure that when we're in there that we're able to help them and assist them and make them feel that they're going to get through this process and they have some support, because it is scary when you go in there. It's a whole new world for people. So I believe that my staff has been very, very friendly. I think Ms. Rodriguez is probably picking and choosing bad reviews, and I think there are bad reviews on every company out there, and then there's some great reviews. And I know we've had great reviews because I've seen them. And I receive numerous emails from attorneys and self-represented litigants who contact me and say, hey, so-and-so helped me. They went out of their way. They were very helpful. And that's when I always make sure that that's put in their personnel file. I do, I put them on the shout out wall so that they're eligible for that gift card at the end of the month. So we, you know, I mean, are there unhappy people places? Yes, there are, but there are also people that are very appreciative of everything we do. We do also have a significant outreach program. I do have a communications director. She does run the Facebook and the Twitter, and we do provide the news when we have it for people. We do provide, you know, was she a day late changing the, you know, that we were closed? She might have been. I mean, I don't think that was on purpose, but I mean, we do certainly try and keep everybody updated. Hey, there's been a change in the fines and fees. You're going to see this impact. Call us with questions. She puts the closed holidays on there. She put information about COVID when we were making adjustments for COVID on there. So we do try and keep that updated. I mean, the amount of things that happen in our office that necessarily affect the public, I mean, we have to decide whether or not that particular issue affects the public, or is it just affecting our office internally.
Do you think that your social media is lacking, or do you think that how would you characterize your social media response?
I mean, there's only so much social media you can do in the circuit clerk's office. So I think that she does keep up to date with the specifics of what's going on in the courthouse and what is happening in our office as far as things that impact the public. But a lot of the things that go on in our office are related to internal change that wouldn't impact the public. And I don't want to bombard people with information that won't help them. I think it's information that will help them that matters. And that, I believe, she does get out there. As far as the parking and changes in, the construction in the courthouse, those things are listed on the websites. And so they can very easily be found. There's a county website, the 19th Judicial Circuit website, which we are attached to. We share forms back and forth, et cetera. So, I mean, all of that information is available to the public. And I have not received any requests from the public or anything from them that they have not been able to find what they've needed. I mean, there are times when they call me and ask me things, but it's not usually because it's a lack of what's on the website. And if it is, we will fix it and add it.
Okay.
Mr. Nenny, can I have a 2-minute response? 2 minutes.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. If I'm not picking and choosing the comments. If you go on just the Google, which is the best comment that they had was 5 years ago, which is when Ms. Cartwright Weinstein was not in office. And that's the only 5-star review they've gotten. And if you go on the Lake County Circuit Clerk's website, there is not one single thing there in Spanish. And the YouTube videos that she's referencing are made from the Chief Judge's office. They're on the 19th Judicial Circuit. They're not posted if they're in Spanish because I'm on it right now. And their Twitter feed is lacking at best. If you look at the immigration court for the Northern District here in Illinois, they post things daily. And attorneys use those things to know, hey, someone tested positive for COVID and the lobby's closed. I think making a daily record of what's going on in the courthouse, let the public decide if they're being bombarded, if they don't want to check it. That's up to them. But I think it's foolish to not have these free tools available for us and not using them. Thank you.
Nick, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Okay. That concludes today's interview. I want to thank Ms. Weinstein and Ms. Rodriguez for their time and their participation. Good luck on your campaigns. The election is November 3rd. Early voting begins September 24th. That will include mail-in voting this year. We encourage all voters to research the candidates and the issues in all the races and to make use of the Daily Herald and dailyherald.com as part of your research. Ultimately, informed voting is one of the most sacred obligations a citizen has if a democracy is to flourish. Thank you for watching and stay well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Gracias.